it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hello, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome to this episode of Her Success Story. We've been in a series on women on boards, and we've been interviewing a variety of really dynamic women and some few amazing men on their different perspective of why women get involved on boards, what drives women to be part of it, as well as what you can do about it, as well as the impact of it. It's been an incredibly enlightening series, and I am, as much as I'm interviewing, I have to tell you I'm taking major notes. Today I have with me an amazing woman, and Sheila Romney has been in this for 17 years. She's a leadership and networking expert and board strategist. Sheila is a trailblazer in working towards gender equality in the boardroom. In 2002, she founded Women in the Boardroom with a revolutionary vision to create an environment where women could assist other women in achieving their leadership and corporate board service goals. In more than 15 years, because she's been at this 17, she has scaled Women in the Boardroom from a concept to a membership organization with global reach across multiple industries. This is a woman who doesn't just talk change, she affects change. It has been my pleasure to begin to get to know Sheila in this capacity as we've been connected through amazing women. And I'll always say, we have the ability to meet women by building relationships with others, women and men across the board. So Sheila, your full bio is going to be in the show notes. I have more interest in chatting with you than talking about you. Please join us today.
Thank you so much, Ivy. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, so
tell me, I've been doing this for a long time. 2002, you started this.
Yeah, so way before the big media hype, right? Before the, states having the legislation, like we don't need, we can't have all those white, all the male boards, right? And Illinois now is just coming out with one where it's not only just you can't have all male boards, but you can't have all white boards either. So
we need diversity in the world.
Yes, exactly. And, I've never been a huge fan of quotas and, legislation, but come on, it's just really been a long time coming. And so if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
So what drove you to say, okay, this isn't just something I care about, but this is something I'm going to put as my goal, my life, my business, my work.
Passion, right, exactly. So I didn't know it was a passion of mine until I had started as an entrepreneur many, many years ago, and I was, creating these big events and, really good at like the whole marketing and sales piece of the world. And my mentor actually said to me, oh my gosh, you've got to start an event that helps women get onto corporate boards. And I was like, okay. So that really is how it started. Of course, that was many, many moons ago. And, it was her passion. And, digging into it and realizing what a void there is and working with so many women and helping them be able to achieve their goal has just been amazing. So obviously it's mine now if I'm working this hard all the time on helping women get into the corporate boardroom. That's how it all started.
So the whole idea of women in the boardroom and the importance of diversity in the boardroom, what kind of skills, experience? I mean, so we say, great, we want to educate the masses, and we want them to go out and start taking those actions to be on boards. What could that look like?
Yeah. Well, how about I kind of run through some different points, if that's okay with you. If I say, okay,
please.
First of all, let's talk about the different types of boards. Let's cover the different, what's the job of a board member? How do you, what's being an effective board member, the risk, the time commitment, the compensation, what skills and experiences are boards looking for? What boards are you qualified for? Why serve? And really, I love the whole, what can you do to go get your seat at the table? So if, I'll run through that if you don't mind. I'll just, okay,
let's start at the beginning.
All right, great. Well, so, typically we're all familiar with the different types of boards out there, which is, the types of companies, which it would be, a public company, which would be traded on, the stock exchange, whether it's NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. Then you have your privately held company boards, which could be, family owned. It could be, private equity, VC, like all the different types of privately held companies. And maybe they're going to, maybe they're a pre-IPO. But then also you have your advisory boards, and they're not just for startups. A lot of times I stress this part to women who are first seeking that first for-profit board seat. Advisory boards are a great place to start. I mean, not only, again, startups aren't the only place, but there's also the large, major corporations that are public companies that also have advisory boards. And, even though we're not a search firm, we do get contacted a lot about different board openings that companies have. And one of the board openings that came to us a few years ago was, from Toyota. And they actually have a diversity advisory board. Now, I thought that was really interesting, and they pay. So first and foremost, I always have to say, listen, I have no desire to help women volunteer one more minute of their time.
Thank you. So let's take a breath here, because that's very true. So women are givers. And God bless us for being givers. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And I don't want women to stop doing their charitable work. That's not what I'm saying, ladies. So please don't email me and say, how dare you? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just letting you know, I just have no desire to help you volunteer more of your time. You do a good job of it on your own. And so there's also the not-for-profit boards, which again, those are typically unpaid. And, I'm asked the question all the time, does serving on a nonprofit board help you get onto a corporate board? My answer is maybe. And, so a couple of just quick notes about it. If you're wanting to really use that nonprofit board service to help you get onto a corporate board, make sure the nonprofit is a large nonprofit. Make sure that it is a well-run nonprofit so that you're learning good governance. Make sure that you're passionate about the mission, of course. Take a leadership role. Know what the expectations are, whether it's the give and get, meaning are you going to write out a check for 10 grand or go fundraise for 100 grand? And make sure you know what the time commitment is. Is it 5 hours a week, 5 hours a month, 5 hours a quarter? Is it for 1 year, 5 years? Know what the expectations are. And then, of course, make sure there's men at the table, because you want to use that as a networking opportunity.
Okay, so, slow down. Let's pull out a couple of these highlights here.
Yes.
This is really great information. So why does it matter? Okay, so I love that you're saying make sure there's men at the table.
Yeah.
Because we network everywhere.
Yep.
And I think you're bringing out a really important point, is if you want to use or leverage being part of a nonprofit to go profit, why do we need men at that table? Talk more a little bit here.
Well, why would you limit yourself, first of all? And second of all, we know it's mainly men who are serving on corporate boards. And I hear from men all the time, when you hear that whole, well, where are the women? And I used to just be so annoyed by that. I'm like, listen, it is not a supply issue, it's a demand issue. So let's stop saying that. But you know what? Then I started thinking, you know what? I really actually need to start having a conversation with the men who are saying, where are the women? And so I did, and I started really digging into it and realized that we're not, telling people that we're interested. We're not networking with men and saying, this is the value I bring and this is what I'm looking for. And so not all women go in the same bucket.
Of course, it's not all women, but the ability to speak up and ask kind of gets, we assume everybody knows that's why we're showing up.
Exactly.
So often we forget that it's, and I talk, half the battle is showing up. Yes, it is. And it's vitally important to show up, a huge teaching lesson that I talk about. And you must ask for what you want in this world.
Yeah, and people cannot read minds. You don't ask, you don't get.
I want to pause you there. You don't ask, you don't get. Because these are really important components. And this is a component that is cross business, cross personal life. This is world, ladies and gentlemen. You don't ask, nobody assumes they know what you want. When you want something and you have a goal for something, you create a strategy and a plan to achieve that. You have to speak up and ask for what you want.
Yep. And you need to really be able to clearly articulate that, right? You need to know what your value add is.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When you're talking about clearly articulating and what your value add is, we always assume that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about, but let's not assume that today.
Yeah, let's assume, right, exactly. So
share a little bit more, what is a value add? So why would, Mary Smith, right, what could some of her value adds in being part of board X, Y, or Z be?
Yep. So, okay, well, first of all, we know that a corporate board would be the top job. And, first and foremost, that job is eyes in and fingers out. So you have to really think about what are the different skills that a board is seeking. It is not seeking, a person who's, good at managing people. You're not going to be managing people on a board, but you would be bringing things like a qualified financial expert. So that would be, someone who maybe you're a CPA or CFO or controller, things like that, or you are really, your area is governance or global experience, operations, mergers and acquisitions, a digital disruptor. So, risk management, right? There's all these, HR and talent management is, like the CHRO. Yes, those are sought after people on a board, more so just in the last year or a year or two. But again, they're not going to be focused on managing. They might, where if there's a major transformation, they know how to, guide and oversee the strategy for that regarding people. But, so again, I know I said it kind of fast, but it's eyes in and fingers out.
Eyes
when you're
in,
a board
fingers
member.
out.
Yeah. Meaning that you're overseeing, but you are not doing the grind.
And that's how board members have other existences, right? We have meaning we have other responsibilities. People who are on boards can sometimes be on more than one board. They could be running other companies. They could be doing many, many different things, because what you're sharing is it's eyes in. You're not the person who is implementing.
Oversight. Right.
So it's the vision, some visionaries, some strategic outside, a higher level look at the company.
Right. So the job is, when you're a board member, it's, to hire, evaluate, and sometimes fire the CEO. And it's to approve and oversee the strategy. It's, of course, to bring in other board members. And it's, to monitor and approve the audit, the governance, the compensation. Really, it's to oversee the financial performance. They are there to make sure the shareholders, the stakeholders, are happy.
I love that, how you're sharing this. So it goes back to a little bit of what you were saying earlier, because one of the responsibilities is to look to bring in other board members. So who are we networking with, and how are we networking if this is something we're looking to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely right. So that's why I said, make sure there's men on the board of those nonprofits that you're on, because you need to be using that as a, networking opportunity.
So what else do women need? What else is helpful for us to know?
All right. Well, so lots of things, but one,
Of
you want to make
course.
sure that, that you're always taking in as much information as you can. Just because somebody wants you on a board doesn't mean you should go on it. When they're interviewing you, you should also be interviewing them. Keep in mind that, D&O insurance, directors and officers insurance, is a must. When you're on that board, remember, I just said your responsibility, the big job is to make sure that your stakeholders, your shareholders are happy. And what that means is that they're making money. If for some reason the stock price sinks, you can expect to be sued by them. Now, if you are performing your duties diligently and being able to show that you followed a responsible process, you don't have to worry about that. But one thing that insurance doesn't cover is your reputation and the risk to that. So make sure that you do your due diligence before joining a board. Other things that are good to know are, well, what boards are you qualified for? If you are, if you're an executive and you have worked at companies that are maybe a small or mid-cap sized company, those are the types of boards, those are the sizes of boards that you will go on. You're not going to go on a Fortune 50. So, really make sure that, and it doesn't mean that you won't eventually, but to start out with, it's most likely whatever size of business, the largest size of company where you have been an executive. So if that means you've only been an exec, and I don't mean to say only, right? Because I don't want to take away from anybody who's been, a senior level executive at a small private company. That's not a bad thing, but just know what lane to stay in then, and don't have these outrageous, expectations that you'll get onto a, Fortune 500, because you're going to do a lot of work to get onto that board that probably will never come, but also, will you really be able to add value? So then there's also the why pursue board service.
Yes,
go ahead.
I just want to do a quick sum up here. So when we look at adding value, we have to look at adding value of what is the scope of our experience and how can that experience be impactful on this board.
Right.
And there's a need, right? There's a need to fill, as opposed to just, oh yeah, you look like a nice person, or you look like you're right, or you have great connections. Sure, we want you, but what are the qualifications based on experience that you're coming in to? Is it a background in finance? Is it what is the experience level that is the value that you're bringing to the table? And be aware of it, because as you're communicating with the board, these are some of the key pieces of communication you have to be specific around.
Yep, exactly.
And I do want to pull out one other tip that you also shared, is always remember, and we forget sometimes when we're interviewing in any position, they're interviewing us and we're interviewing them. It has to be a right fit on two sides of all equations.
Yep.
I love that you shared that, because that's important too. We think about it when we're going for the next job or position or whatever it is. It's important to remember in a board position as well.
Absolutely. Well, good. So should we move on to the why pursue?
Oh yes, my passion, the why.
Yeah. So you do need to think about, why is it that you are interested in serving on a corporate board? Is it that you think, wow, I want to be paid. I want to be paid to get onto a corporate, be paid for my time. Well, listen, that cannot be the only reason. Certainly there's people that are making a lot of money serving on corporate boards, because why else would it be so hard to get on them? It is definitely that elite crowd. But really what we're hearing, it's like you're wanting to pursue this because maybe you don't want to do the grind of 24/7, 365 of your executive job anymore, and you want to still have that intellectual challenge. You're sitting at the table, you're learning from very smart people on the way they do business or how they approach it. You're learning. It's also service to others. I know we as women, we love to do service to others, so it definitely is service to others. It is certainly a fulfilling second career. And it's an enhanced resume and reputation. I mean, everybody's motivation, by the way, is not the same, but nearly all agree that they get more out of every board meeting than they give.
So when we look at that and we get out so much more than what we give, and it shows up in so many areas in business and in life, in a boardroom, by being part of a select group of diverse, educated people with different backgrounds, there is so much ability to learn.
Yep, definitely.
And that's there's many of us, myself included, who I love to learn. I love to learn, and I'm always wanting to learn. Why do I like to interview people? I like to learn.
Yeah.
So
right.
Being part of a board, that's part of the asset. That's one of the benefits.
Yep. Yeah, I always say, so, I mean, we haven't really touched much on what Women in the Boardroom does, but, we're a membership organization, and we work with our members on, getting onto whether it's their first, second, or third corporate board. But what I always say about these members of ours is that they are life learners. They just have no desire to one day, retire and, do full-time gardening. So they want to continue learning and growing. In fact, I always say, if you're not learning and growing, you're dying, because you can't stay the same.
Oh, so true. So true.
Yeah.
I've always said, when I stop learning is the day I lay down and I'm done.
Exactly. Well, so should we go into really what, kind of what can you do to get your seat at the table?
I was just going to say, what can we do? So you teach and help so many people understand and get on boards in your organization. So tell us a little bit what we can do. What are some of the actionable steps here?
Well, first of all, you need to know why you want to serve, right? With those items we just went over, really know why you want to serve. You have to be in it for the long haul to get onto a corporate board, because you don't go, oh, I want us to run a corporate board, and it doesn't just magically happen overnight. In fact, the average we hear is it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to get onto a corporate board. That's a lot of networking. So you need to know why. You need to develop a plan of action. There's board documents, a board portfolio it's different from your regular resume or CV or that marketing bio you have on your website. And these documents they highlight your background for board positioning. Earlier when we talked about, when those boards are looking for certain skill sets to, that they need, and they're looking for that in people. So those documents, they really need to be giving an overview of what your accomplishments and your achievements are and the impact it's had. So you need to have those documents. Of course, you need to know your value add, right? You need to have that elevator pitch down so that you can clearly articulate to people what your value add is, what you're looking for, without them getting that glossy-eyed look, and without assuming that they should already know. And of course, your personal brand is key. Make sure that you have an excellent reputation. Whatever your main job and industry is, you definitely have to have an excellent reputation. And remember, always bring your A game to whatever you do, because people are watching. Of course, you can educate yourself on board responsibilities. There's, Google it. There's so many different resources these days compared to 15 years ago. We actually have a ton of really great webinars on, whether it's interviewing for your board seat or, what are the current trends in the boardroom, or the different committee structures, or, it's on cybersecurity, what every board member needs to know. ESG, like there's so many different topics that you need to stay on top of to be a great board member. But again, I'd already mentioned, be in it for the long haul. There's just no quick and easy way into the boardroom. I know, with the whole, it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Of course, we've seen our members get onto boards much, much faster than that. But if you don't have that plan and you're not working at it at least, if you don't have at least 5 hours a month to work on it, then don't do it. And of course, we go back to the very first in the beginning of telling people you want to, serve on a corporate board, and be specific with that value add. But networking is really the key. What was that?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And one of the things I share very often is the concept of be specific.
Right.
One of the things I'm working on is to be on a board that is, and then finish the sentence. It's not a sentence that goes, oh yeah, I'm looking to get onto my next board, or I'm looking to get onto my first board. It's I'm looking to get on the board that, and then give that description. Be specific, because nobody can help you if we don't know how.
And you know what? Your close friends, people will sometimes assume that we know that they know what we're looking for. Oh, they know what I do. Or, oh, I've worked with them for 20 years. They know, or this or that. I mean, look at it this way. If somebody, first of all, I always say our network really does want to help us, but we need to help them help us. And if they don't know, they're going to be too embarrassed to ask you and then not help you. But, if you think about it this way, if somebody says to you, hey, I'm looking for a new job, and you're like, okay, can you help me?
I hear Starbucks is hiring. Is that what you were looking at?
Yeah. Your mind just draws a blank. You're like, what am I supposed to do with that information? So think about it that way. And, I think we're all approached with that. Hey, I'm looking for a new job. Or, you're like, and? We shouldn't have to dig it out of people.
That happens to be very true. And I think very, very often in communication, when we actually work towards being more specific in how we communicate, what we're looking for, what we're asking for, we have the ability to achieve so much more quickly, because it's out in the universe specifically. Second of all, people know how to help us, which is exactly what you're emphasizing. How often do we assume people? I will tell you, my own family doesn't always introduce me in what I do. Well, you would think.
Yeah, I just went, okay, yeah, that, I don't even think my family knows what I do, but we just can't assume.
We cannot assume. And there are so many people we don't realize who we know and how we know them. So when we start speaking up and speaking out, we have the ability to connect with people who could really help put us in the positions or put us in the connections in the conversations.
Yeah, and that's funny, because my last line always is, listen, my biggest advice is to show up, stand up, and speak up.
Yeah. Touche. And on that note, Sheila, Sheila is the CEO and founder of Women in the Boardroom. And if you have some goals, desires to say, hey, I'm ready to, this is my time, this is what I'm ready to do next, you do want to check out Women in the Boardroom, because it's an amazing asset that can help guide you through the process. Sheila, how could people stay connected to you?
Yeah, well, so it is. It's womenintheboardroom.com. So we really do make that easy.
Make it easy.
Yep, exactly. You can always send an email to info@womenintheboardroom.com. That's the easiest email address. Of course, we're on Twitter, at Boardroom Women. We're on Facebook, and LinkedIn is, of course, our, biggest social media platform, and we're all over LinkedIn. We have a group on LinkedIn, and oh my gosh, I don't even know. I think we have like over 10,000 members on our LinkedIn group on for Women in the Boardroom. So it's a great conversation.
So in this whole series, we've been speaking to a variety of different perspectives of how to get involved, to the impact of women on boards in a lot of different ways. If this is something of interest to you, if you've been paying attention to this series, share it forward. This is how we create change, is more listeners to learn about women on boards. If it's something that you've been wanting to do or thinking about doing, you definitely want to check out Women in the Boardroom, learn more about it, learn how to create your strategy, your plan, and how women continue to make a difference in the big picture. I will tell you the biggest takeaway, and Sheila, I thank you for reminding people to be specific and ask. We can achieve it all when we specifically ask for what we want to achieve.
Yep, you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I know you have a crazy busy schedule, so I really appreciate that.
Yes, well, thank you. It has been an absolute honor to be on your show.
And listeners, please feel free to leave a comment. Let us know what else you want to hear, what other series interest you, and leave a review. Don't forget to subscribe to Her Success Story. We drop in your inbox every Monday morning. Till next time.